In this episode of Cerner Hacks, we're going to talk all about labs, how to order them, how to prevent screw-ups, and what they mean. So stay tuned for another episode of Cerner Hacks. We're going to talk all about labs today. So, if you don't order these correctly, your patients are not going to be happy with you. Either they're going to get poked again, or the lab won't do it the right time, or it won't be done at all. So, we want to make sure that we're ordering things correctly. Let's go through some of these big headings. Blood work routine. What does that mean? Routine labs mean that the patient will be poked on the next lab run. Typically, first thing in the morning, there might be a mid-morning draw, there might be an early afternoon draw. You'll have to check with your institution to see what is their routine schedule. When you pick routine draw, don't change the time intervals because that screws up the lab. When you order routine lab, it's going to autofill today's date and the time right now. That doesn't mean it's going to be drawn immediately. It means it'll be drawn at the next lab run, which may not be till the next morning if you missed the last collection of the day. If you missed the last routine draw of the day, there are a couple orders you can do. You can do urgent if you need the lab draw within 1 hour of the order. You can put stat, which will do the lab work within 15 minutes. I would avoid this one unless if you actually need the blood work stat. Or you might want to do a time draw where you're timing the sample for a certain time. Let's say if somebody's been bleeding out and you've already had a morning draw, they're not super unstable that you need a stat, but you need a repeat blood work that evening. So we can go into modified details, deselect routine, and instead we're going to put a timed draw. And a time draw would be for today 2000 hours, and that will schedule a time draw for 8 p.m. All right. The other times you might want to do a time draw is if you're doing a sample like a trough level or a peak level of medication, let's say a digoxin level. So let's type in digoxin level, and it gives us a warning that we're going to have to modify the timing of the dose. So we'll go into this, modify details. And here for a dig level, let's say we want a trough level before the morning dose of medication. So we're going to set that for tomorrow at 0600 hours, and we can sign off on this. And now we have to put in the time of the last dose, which was this morning at 0900 hours, and we can sign off on this. Okay, let's say a patient had their morning draw already and you don't want to poke them again because you forgot to add the calcium or the albumin. So what we can do is order a lab add-on test, which is available in this menu here. And all you have to do in this instance is select that and add on the test that you want. So albumin and calcium level. And that will save your patient a poke, and they'll appreciate you for that. Other things to remember is that if you're doing a morning draw and it's after midnight, well, it won't be drawn that same morning at 8 o'clock. It'll be drawn the following morning because you've ordered it past the calendar date. One thing to remember about morning blood work is that morning lab work is always going to be defaulted 0330. So let's go modify details, and you'll see here that we're scheduled for 0330 in the morning. That doesn't mean that the patient's going to be poked at 3:30 in the morning, because what doctor wants to be responsible for that? What that means is that label is going to be printed off at 3:30 in the morning at the lab. That way the lab techs can schedule their morning runs and cohort patients to make it more time efficient for them. So please don't change that 0330 time schedule because that's going to screw up the lab. If you do change it, it's probably going to delay the patient's blood work for the following morning. So points to remember here are: do not change the timing of routine lab work or AM lab work. The lab will automatically know when to draw those labs. If you want a stat lab work, it'll be done within 15 minutes. If you want urgent lab work, it'll be done within 1 hour. If you want time blood work, then specify the exact time of that lab work. Finally, sometimes the things that you want aren't in these menus. And let's say if you wanted to order CRP, and if you order this, the schedule will always be defaulted routine. So if you're ad lib ordering single tests of blood work, just make sure that those labs are being drawn when you want them to be drawn. Otherwise, it's going to be defaulted to routine, and that person will be poked one additional time that day if you haven't missed a lab run. What about ordering those obscure lab tests like the serum rhubarb level? Well, there is a lab order sentence for that as well. You would go under miscellaneous test blood, or sometimes it's a non-blood test like a swab, or a non-blood test urine. So you can discover that just by searching lab. These are ones that you would select, and in the comment field, fill in the lab test that you want. Okay, that's all I've got for you. Good luck with your lab test ordering. Until next time, we'll see you later, and thanks for listening.